garden friends. Welcome to another episode of AJ's Green Thumb. I'm AJ. So this evening, I know we're running out of daylight, but I just figured I'd come home real quick and throw some bulbs in some planters. So these two urns are actually Moreland urn planters, Moreland. They're both in an alpine stone finish. So they're both 10.5 inches high and they're about 14 inches in diameter. They each weigh about 26 pounds. All right, garden friends, I had to bring this into the house because it was getting really dark. So anyhow, here's my little arts and crafts table that I usually do a lot of my videos during this time of the season. So the mix of bulbs that I plan on putting in these beautiful urns, they're gonna be a low height type mixture, all right? And mostly early season bulbs. So the very familiar early season bulbs we have here are crocus. So this is a multicolored bloom package, basically. It's about 60 bulbs. You can get this at any big box store. I think I got these from Home Depot. They were on sale, of course. So real quick on the crocus, like I said, they bloom in early spring. You plant them at a depth of 3 inches. And they get to be from 4 to 6 inches tall. All right, and they're hardy between zones 3 and 9. So it's a huge range of zones that you can grow crocus. In addition to putting them in pots, you can put them throughout your landscape. And as you can see, the leaves are very grass-like. The good thing about crocus foliage is they blend right into the surrounding grass if you happen to have it out in a lawn or a pasture. So you're not worried too much about very tall, decaying foliage. The next one I have is pushkinia. I practice really hard just to say that. So these return year after year, just like the crocus. So they're like perennials. They're great for rock gardens. Pushkinia libanatica, they also need to be planted at a depth of 3 inches. And they bloom in early spring, and they also get to be between 4 to 6 inches high. They're hardy between zones 3 to 10. So that's an extra zone, zone 10. So these can grow pretty far south. Next one I have is a tried and true early spring bloomer, and it's snowdrops, galanthus nivalis. These come with about 25 per pack. They also bloom late winter, early spring. Actually, I think these galanthus will bloom earlier than the crocus. So I think the succession of bloom is galanthus or snowdrops, then crocus, and then pushkinia. All right, so these have to be planted at a depth of 2 to 3 inches as well. They get to be a little bit taller, from 5 to 8 inches. And they have, I'll put a picture up on the screen. They're snowdrops. Everybody knows snowdrops. So very tall strap-like foliage, and the flower head kind of nods a little bit, and that's the typical trait of a snowdrop. So because they all need to be placed around the same depth, this is going to be really simple. So I'll just kind of cram them all in at one time, and then in the spring we'll have a beautiful display. So both of these urns come with drainage holes, and I have some sheet moss right here that I'll just go ahead and put at the bottom to plug the holes. I don't need much, just a little bit. Then I'll throw my soil on top and make sure I have a good 3 to 4 inch depth to put these bulbs in. I almost forgot, one last bulb I plan on putting in these beautiful urns are hyacinth. So these are the most fragrant spring bloomers that I've smelled, or I've had the pleasure of smelling. And they also bloom relatively early. I think they come up last. So out of all of these other bulbs, I think the hyacinths come up last. They come up, I want to say, between early to mid-spring. All right, so clearly those have to be planted a little deeper. So with hyacinth bulbs, or any bulbs, you're supposed to plant them 3 to 4 times as deep as the size of the bulb. So in this case, this hyacinth bulb is roughly, I want to say, 1.5 inches to 2 inches tall. I don't know specifically, but I'm just guessing. So you'd want to plant these about 6 inches deep. But when you're doing container displays, you want a more dramatic visual impact. So I tend to put these a little closer. So I'm going to put 4 bulbs per container. Okay. The thing about bulbs, though, to remember is you don't want them to touch. Tell you what, guys, I'm feeling a little froggy, so I'm gonna go ahead and put 5 bulbs per container. All right. I'm gonna squeeze in a 5th bulb. So I'm feeling a little bit more adventurous here. So I've got my hyacinth in there. I just go ahead and cover that up. Now this technique is also called lasagna bulb planting, all right? And it's pretty self-explanatory, you know, because you have layers. So with this group, I'm only gonna have 2 layers because all the small bulbs pretty much all have to be at that same depth. Snowdrops, I plan on populating as many of these as possible throughout the landscape because besides the crocus, snowdrops are the optimum first sign of spring. All right, so I've got all the snowdrops, or the galanthus, packed in the middle. So the middle ring, I'll go ahead and put the pushkinia. All right. All right, so these are roughly 3 inches in, and we'll just go ahead and cover these up. I think I have some gravel downstairs, so I will go ahead and top dress each of these once I cover this up. So when you're planting bulbs in containers, you don't want to store the container out directly out under the elements, because if bulbs receive too much moisture, they can rot. So the best thing to do would be to still keep them outside so they go through that whole freezing cycle, but you want to keep them perhaps under an overhang or under the eaves of your house, like the sides of your house, or even an unheated shed or garage. You still want it to go through that chill cycle, but you don't want them to get too wet. You want to make sure whatever container you put them in has sufficient drainage. All right, garden friends, and that's a wrap. I really enjoyed using these Campania urns. I think they have a very stately and sophisticated look to them, and they're pretty durable. And yeah, these were pretty packed, as you guys just saw, with beautiful bulbs, which will produce a beautiful spring display come 2022. All right, guys, see you in the next one. This is AJ Screen Thumb.